Hey everybody, it's Allie from Padfoot Palms, Poodles and Pals, and I'm looking like I'm ready for bed because we're winding down the night here at Padfoot Poodles Land. We've got the dogs all ready for bed, right Shazam? You ready for bed? So I was just checking in on the group when I saw this post. Now, I want you guys to know that Suze is sitting across from me here in the office.
Hey, everybody.
Hopefully you can hear her. So I'm going to have Suze blind react to me telling her about the post that I just read in the group that has me absolutely furious. So, Suze, are you ready?
Yes, I'm on go.
Okay, so this puppy owner took her Pomeranian puppy into the vet. And he's having his little checkup, and the vet tells her that she needs to put the puppy on science diet puppy food because the food that she's feeding is all life stages. And he really needs to be on a puppy food. And that it has to do with the guaranteed analysis of the food, right? So like the protein, the fat, right? The breakdown that's on the bag. So, are you following along with me here? Suze?
Yes.
Are you following along with me?
Oh, you're asking me?
I'm telling you the story.
Okay.
So anyway,
I'm following.
she comes and posts in the group and she's like, is this a thing? Do I need to change my puppy's food, right? Because her vet is telling her this. Now, I already know before I go and look up this food that I'm going to be mad. I already know. First of all, because it's science diet, which means it's made with what? Garbage. It's made with corn and wheat and a bunch of cheap crap that they put together in a food. And it shouldn't even be fed to chickens, let alone canines. But that's neither here nor there. So his reasoning of the guaranteed analysis, it instantly sends me off. So I go and look up the foods. I look up the food from our approved list, which was the Instinct chicken and rice, the Be Natural variety. So I take a screenshot and Jessica says, Allie, my vet told me it's a great food. Yeah, it's because they have no idea what they're talking about.
They just learn it at the university.
Right, that's what they're taught in school. So I get a screenshot of the ingredient list for the Be Natural food, which I've reviewed and approved. And then I get a screenshot of the guaranteed analysis, which is your protein, your fat, your various levels, right? It breaks it down on the bag. Then I go to the Science Diet Puppy, screenshot the ingredients. It was when I went to do the highlighting that I do, most of the ingredients are problematic.
So you highlighted the whole thing?
Not the entire thing. The entire list is not bad, but most of it is bad. Almost all of the major components are bad.
Wow.
And then on top of that, remember, now let's fall back to his reasoning, which was, I think it was the protein level. I'd have to look at her post again. Anyway, it had to do with the guaranteed analysis. I want you to know that these two foods are off by 1%. They each have a difference from each other by 1%. And these guaranteed analysis are not even that accurate because we don't have an entity that actually regulates them. I'm so mad I can't even talk. You tell him, Kennedy. So I go and I'm looking at it and I'm comparing them side to side and I'm like, are you kidding me with this right now? You guys, why can't I be the person that's in the vet visit that has a vet say something like that to me. Because don't think for 1 minute that I wouldn't pull up both of those foods on my phone and say, okay, so I see that there's a difference here of 1%. Can you explain to me how that 1% is going to make a difference? Whereas this science diet food is extremely high carb, and it's full of problematic inflammatory ingredients that actually cause more problems than they solve. And this other food doesn't. This food has chicken. This food has corn. Are we feeding a dog? Or are we feeding livestock? Oh, we're feeding a dog. Oh, you're not a livestock veterinarian. I was confused because you were trying to convince me to feed my dog corn.
It's ridiculous.
You guys, I can't make this stuff up. I never. Now, I know that vets push a lot of the Purinas and the science diets and the Royal Canine, because that's who teaches them about dog food. Stay right there. Don't you dare leave.
Yeah, they also sponsor.
This is an older version, but this is the type of book that they learn from in school. Yes, I have one. And look. Oh, look. Okay, you've made your diagnosis. Great. So we have a diagnosis now. So now what we can do is flip through our trusty book here. And then we can go to that diagnosis. Sorry, let me go to Canine. We can go to that diagnosis and it tells us exactly what food to recommend. This is the type of flow chart that they use. There is no medicine in prescription foods. The term prescription is a marketing term. I mean, it's absolute garbage. And then, like this one, this is for canine arthritis and for dogs who are overweight. Okay. And it's like, oh, this is for heart disease. Okay, great. So we just prescribe this food. Look at this. It's just chart after chart after chart. Not, let's talk to the pet parent about what treats they're giving. Let's talk to the pet parent about how a fresh food diet makes a difference in their overall health. I mean, if you're eating McDonald's every day of your life, you are not going to feel good. It's just not possible. That's what this is. That's what this is. Even if you don't want to compare it to McDonald's, right? Corn. If you ate corn every day, you are not going to be feeling good. Like, not to mention there's going to be spikes in your sugar, right? I mean, this entire book, here, this is the page I was trying to find. Look. Oh, look, it's color-coded, and it's beautiful. And all you have to do is find your little color, and then you flip to that section, and it tells you which food to prescribe. Guys, I didn't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a nutritional education to tell you that that's not nutrition. That's not nutrition. That's following a flow chart that someone else gave you, that a company gave you, and said, here you go, dummy, sell my product. For $80, $90, $100 a bag. How does that make any sense? How is that helping anyone? It's not. Do you have it? I'm getting really upset, you guys. If I had $1 for every person who came to me for help, whose dog was on a prescription diet that the doctor, the vet, had prescribed to them for their dog on GI issues or pancreatitis. And I took them off of that food and put them on fresh food, and they got better. I wouldn't be here right now because I would be rich. I would be a millionaire. Like, it's not that complicated, you know? It's not that complicated. This is not nutrition, okay? This is not teaching them nutrition. I'm not saying this is the only part of the education that they receive, but this is the kind of handbook that they use to make nutritional suggestions. That's not nutrition. If I can know off the top of my head, you know what? These two foods are all life stages. One is specifically designed for a puppy. They're going to be very similar in the guaranteed analysis, and I go and look at it and they're off by 1%. Why couldn't the vet do that? Why couldn't the vet do that? Okay, I need to calm down. Let me come back to the comments. Oh, the person who posted that post is here. She even said that all life stages only has 50% protein and he needs more? What? Jessica, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Please find a new vet. I don't care if they're cheap. I don't care if they're close to you. I don't care if your whole family takes their dogs there. Please find a new vet, because that is a level of incompetence that makes me nervous about their medical practices, okay? Like, vets do get basic nutritional knowledge. Okay, unless you've got a dog that's on a keto kibble, you're not going to find one that's 50% protein. It doesn't exist. Unless it's a keto kibble, in which case that will be higher in protein and fat. But even then, you'd be hard-pressed to find one at 50%. That's... Please find a new vet. I super heart you. Thank you so much for posting. Please find a new vet. Lilium says they get kickback from science diet, not the best food, but people don't want to go against their vet because, God forbid, you should ask a vet a question. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, trust me. When I go to the vet, they talk down to me until they realize that I know what I'm talking about and I'm not going to back down. And then they just decide that they're just going to wash their hands of it, and they start off on something else. So, yeah. I mean, so many of the textbooks are provided by these companies. So many of the scholarships, the research funds, it's one of those things, and I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist. You know, they're always like, follow the money, right? But in certain things in life, that's true, right? If you follow the money, you will see that all of these companies have all of this research to say that their stuff is good because they paid people to do the research to find a reason that their stuff is good. Okay, well, I could fund a study that I want the earth to be flat. And then I could pay people and say, hey, I want you to find in your conclusion that the earth is flat. And if I, handed them $50,000, guess what? You better well guarantee they're going to come back to me and said, hey, Allie, you'll be so glad we found all of this evidence that shows that the earth is flat. Thank you so much for giving us your money. Bye-bye. Right? I mean, come on. Anthony says, hi, Allie. Hello. Welcome to my rant. Ooh, Anthony says, have you heard anything back from AKC about Remedy? I don't know if it's been 6 weeks. No. So, for those of you who don't know, I am applying for Remedy to be AKC registered. She is currently CKC registered. I talk about this in one of my previous videos. And no, it's going to be like another 5 or 6 weeks before we hear anything. I promise you, whether it's good news or bad news, I will make another video the moment I find out. So I promise I will share that info with you, because I know that there are a lot of people who are very curious, and a lot of breeders who are curious about the process and how it goes. So, but no, I have not heard anything back yet. Jessica said her office is filled with that crap. Yeah. And that's the other thing that kills me. So this whole thing with this vet saying that this puppy needs more protein, he weighs 3 pounds. Do you know what happens when you take very small toy size or toy breed puppies, even older, slightly older puppies, and you pump them full of a bunch of protein? Especially when they're younger, it can be problematic. I mean, it's not something you want to do. Okay, good. Jessica said she's going to look for another vet. Thank you. Okay, a different Jessica. Tonight is Jessica night. Why do vets always ask, so when are you gonna... She did 2 scissors with the nuts. And then try to talk about the health if you don't, and the population. Okay, so Jessica, this is a great question. Let's just... I don't normally not breeder bash, but I don't normally vet bash, but apparently we're just going to do it tonight. It's just one of those nights. So the reason why vets are going to ask you and or pressure you and or guilt you every time you come in about when you're going to get your dog spayed or neutered is because many, many years ago, I want to say it was like 40 years ago, there was a huge influx in the population of people just letting their dogs do whatever, right? It was mostly out in the country. It was mostly people who are irresponsible with their pets, who probably shouldn't own pets anyway, but whatever. And they started to see that there was an influx of litters of puppies being dropped off at shelters and vets' offices. And it started to become a problem. Well, just like any time there's a problem, we as humans decide that we're going to create a solution to the problem the easiest and fastest and most lucrative way possible. For example, when this happens in Europe, they institute regulations about when people can take their dogs out, dogs being on leashes. They have, vehicles that travel around and pick up the dogs. Dogs are kept separate from each other, right? So they work as a community to keep the population of stray dogs and stray cats and things like that at a low. We as Americans do not work as a community. We expect somebody else to fix our problems. So that's exactly what the Veterinary Society did. They said, okay, we're seeing that this is becoming a problem. Shelters are at capacity. Vets' offices are at capacity, right? Because that's what people used to do. They used to drop off litters of kittens and puppies at the vet's office. And so vets got together and said, hey, we've got an easy fix for this. Let's just do to them just like we do to the cows and the sheep and all the other livestock, because we don't like to have to deal with their hormones, and we just send them off to slaughter anyway, so who cares? Let's do the same thing to dogs and cats, and that will keep irresponsible people from having unwanted litters of puppies and kittens. And so voila, then thus was born the idea of spay and neuter at 6 months, because dogs and cats become, right, they can get pregnant as early as 6 months. But see, then even that wasn't good enough. So then vets decided that they were going to be smart, and they were going to say, hey, you know what? You just finished up all your puppy shots. Now what we need to do is at your last appointment after your puppy shots, we need to go ahead and spay or neuter your puppy. That way you don't have to worry about it. They're very young, so their parts are very small, so it doesn't cost us a lot of money to do the surgery. And because they're young and small and, full of life, they bounce back very quickly from surgery. So let's go ahead and get you signed up for that pediatric surgery. And thus that concept was born, and more vets started doing it. So yeah. Other countries don't do that. We suck. And that's why vets do that. That's why they pressure you. That's why they guilt you. That's why they, bash breeders, or, try to discourage people from being responsible breeders by providing them the information that they know. That's why they try to scare people. This is one of the things that I talked about in my female dogs in heat video that I just put out. Vets will tell you, oh, well, you definitely want to get her spayed before that first heat. I mean, you don't want to have to deal with that, do you? Really? Our children deal with it as young as 9 years old. Really? Is it that bad? It's weak. We can't handle that? But we've been told for years and years and years, we have allowed ourselves to be brainwashed into thinking we are not capable of being responsible pet owners. You can't possibly be expected to do what's best for your pet's health because you don't know what you're doing. Only the vet does.
That's right.
Somewhere along the line, everything got twisted. That whole spay and neuter thing, that was never meant originally. It was never meant to be a forever solution. It wasn't. It was meant, I think originally their documentation shows that they wanted vets to push it for 10 years, and then they were going to reevaluate the population. Yeah, they never did. They never did. And vets still recommend it to this day. Do you know why? Not all vets are about money. And most of them care about the animals. But you can only do as much as the information that you have. And when you're relying on an institution to teach you, and this is what you're being taught, when you're being taught not how to find a problem and address the problem, but how to mask the problem, defer the problem, right? Just ask anyone who has a pet with allergies. They go in, the vet does almost nothing, doesn't try to help you do an elimination diet, doesn't try to help you by changing the food. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They want to give the dogs steroids, they want to give the dogs Apoquil, they want to put them on a bunch of medications, and then they send you on your way. Do they call you in 2 weeks and ask you if there's been any improvement? No. Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered why vets don't do a follow-up to call and see if your dog's doing better? It's because your dog's not doing better. It's because they know you'll be back. Why are all these dogs on weight loss prescription diets and then coming back to their follow-up visits in a few months and they haven't lost any weight? Did you properly educate the pet parent? Did you put them in a position where they're actively having to work against the food that you make them believe is going to fix the problem? But really, that food is so high carb and has so many problematic and inflammatory ingredients, and the dog is just hungry all the time. And then you wonder why pet parents are so frustrated. And they feel like they're constantly, 1 step forward, 3 steps back. It's because you are. You are. Okay. Sabrina has a question. How many raw chicken wings and chicken feet can an 8-pound, mostly kibble-fed dog eat in a week? So that's going to depend on the dog. And it's also going to depend on, are they completely new to raw chicken, right? Is this a new thing that you're instituting? If that's the case, I would start with a chicken foot. I would give them 1, right? Let them eat it in a day. And then I would wait until the next day to see how their poop is. Did it give them diarrhea? Did it make it a little soft? Right? So you're going to have to gauge it that way. For small to medium-sized dogs, a lot of people do every other day. But it really just depends on the dog. For some dogs, that's too much bone. And so they do better if it's every 2 days. So you're just going to have to play with it, Sabrina, and see what works best for your dog. But if you're just starting them out on raw meaty bones, which is fantastic, by the way, just start with 1. I recommend you give it like first thing in the morning. That way you can kind of gauge the poop, right? So you don't wake up to diarrhea. That's never fun. Nobody wants to do that. And take it from there. Hey, Robin. Emily said, Allie, our vet said feed our dog white bread as treats. Wow, that's a new one.
It's ridiculous.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Sabrina said, my vet couldn't even tell me why the foods he recommended are good. That's because he doesn't know. Or they say whatever it is the company has told them to say. For example, we've done all this research and we found the food is good. What's the other one they like to say? That is backed by research. Oh, feeding trials. That's the other one they like to do. Oh, well, we've done extensive feeding trials and found that the food was good. Fun fact, AFCO feeding trials, only 60% of the dogs have to finish the feeding trial in order for it to be successful. 60%. Do you know what that means? That means out of 10 dogs, 4 of them could die from eating the food, and it would still pass. Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me if I don't claim that's research or scientific. Yeah, I don't think I'd be bragging about that and saying, hey, we passed a feeding trial. Really? That's kind of scary. But see, your average consumer doesn't know that. They hear, oh, all this research and feeding trials and AFCO and WASAVA guidelines, and they're like, oh, okay, well, these are regulatory entities that are looking out for my dog's best interest. No. No. Did you know that if you want the actual full and detailed list of ingredients and what percentage of that ingredient name actually has to be that ingredient, for example, chicken meal, if you wanted to have the actual breakdown that is required, you would have to pay $200 and sign a non-disclosure agreement from AFCO. Yeah, go ahead and try to convince me that that's transparency. Try to tell me that that's not something to hide. What? Okay. Going down. Jessica said they started pushing the spay neuter, I want to say around 12 weeks. Wow. So they were generous with you. They start hounding me at my very first appointment when puppies are 8 weeks old. They start hounding me. I actually have to tell them to put it in the chart, write it down, make a note, put a big star by it, highlight it. Do not ask me about spay and neuter. I'm not interested. Thank you, come again. She said, at least the vet didn't push me about it. Yeah, that's good. Because a lot of times they will pressure you. They will make you feel bad. They will guilt you, whether it's about spay neuter or what you're feeding. They'll try to scare you into thinking, oh, well, if you're not feeding science diet, your dog is going to die from some terrible condition. I've seen it. I've talked to people when they've gotten out of their vet appointments and they're in the car crying because the vet made them feel horrible about what they're feeding their puppy. It's terrible. And it's not right. Haley said diapers are easy. Yes, they are. I made a whole video about how to take care of them, how to clean them, how to keep them looking pearly white if that's important to you. It's just not that hard. I just had 2 females go into heat back to back. And I'm still standing. I've still got all my sanity. We're good. Everybody's fine. So. Jessica said, I can't find a vet that will do a vasectomy, so I'm not going to. He is trained, and we are responsible when around other dogs. Fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, sometimes for a vasectomy or an ovary-sparing spay, you may have to travel further, right, to find a vet who will do it. A lot of times, reproductive vets will do it because they've been trained in school because of their specialization on how to do it. So if you can do a search for a reproductive vet, you can call them and ask them, will they do a vasectomy? Will they do an ovary-sparing spay? And a lot of times they will, but for some reason they don't list it in their list of procedures, like on their website. For example, my reproductive vet that I used when I lived in Georgia, it was not listed on her website. But I went to another site that said that she was a vet who did it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just call them and ask. And I called, and the receptionist had no idea what I was talking about, which is the other thing you'll run into. And I was like, hey, You sound like you're not sure. Can you please just go ask your manager, is this a procedure that you offer? Turns out it is. And I had him email me a quote. Like, you have to actively push back against everything. It's so tiring. It's so tiring. So, Jessica, don't give up hope. You may find somebody who's a little bit farther away, but hopefully you'll be able to find somebody. Andrea said, are you really live? I really am. I'm live and I'm venting and I'm angry. And I'm here. You're so funny. Jessica said, so I'm guessing he's fine on this food. I'm hoping to go frozen once I get my standalone freezer. Yes, your puppy is perfectly fine on the Be Natural food as long as he likes it and he's eating well. At 3 pounds, my main concern would be making sure that he has access to food 24/7 just to keep his blood sugar up, which, you know, it obviously you've already got it under control because you're not having any issues. So yeah, he's perfectly fine on that food. And he does not need more protein. He's not a bodybuilder, okay? If he decides that he wants to be a tiny bodybuilder, then we can talk. But until that point that he decides that he wants to get in a tanning bed and become a tiny bodybuilder and have biceps that are this big on his little tiny legs, right? If he wants to go that route, then you tell him to get on the puppy phone and call me and I'll talk him out of it. But until that point, he does not need more protein. Right, Velocity? Right? Can you tell him? Protein? Yes. Protein. I love you. Nom, 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 nom. Okay. By the way, if you're looking for a standalone freezer, Jessica, Facebook Marketplace is a great place to look. Also, you can find them a lot of times on Craigslist, although please be very careful when using Craigslist. There's crazy people on Craigslist. Jessica, the other Jessica, said, this is why I love this group. I wanted an honest opinion and research behind it. Absolutely. Okay. All right, guys. I know. What time is it? Suze, what time is it?
8:32.
Okay. The poodles are trying to tell me it's time for bed. It's time for you poodles to go to bed. Say we do really well because we're on a schedule.
Right.
Yes, I know. Thank you for telling me. You're a good girl. Okay, off. Good girl. You're okay. There you go, good girl. Okay, I'm going to answer these last few questions, and then I'm going to jump off here because the poodles are rallying because it's time for bed. Okay, Teresa says, after you recommending the max meat, Angela lost almost 2 pounds over several months. I need to get back to the home cooking recipes too for her. They love it. Yeah, absolutely. And 2 pounds, don't forget, 2 pounds to us, like as humans losing weight, that's like nothing, right? That's like water weight. But when you're a small dog, losing 2 pounds is a very big deal. That is a large percentage of the dog's overall body weight. So 2 pounds over several months is very good. That's good. That's healthy weight loss, right? It didn't happen very quickly. The dog wasn't starving to death, right? People want things done very quickly. And it sounds like, Teresa, you were doing fantastic. So yeah, just keep with it. If your dog's got more weight to lose, that's okay. Just keep with it. Okay, Penny says, my dogs vomit stomach bile on average 6 to 7 times per month. I've researched for years about this and I feel like it's a monthly heartworm flea and tick medication that is causing this? Okay, it could very well be. Do you have any suggestions for what could be causing this? I feed them twice per day, and it's not due to empty stomachs, okay? All blood work always comes back normal. Any help is appreciated. Okay. So, I would need to ask you a few more questions, Penny. Like, I would need to know, have you tried changing the food? Are you noticing that it's around the time that you give your heartworm, flea and tick medication? Or is it just all throughout the month? Is it different times of day, right? We would really need to break it down to try to see if there's a pattern here. A lot of times, people who are feeding a kibble diet, if they switch to another type of diet, whether that's freeze-dried or air-dried or jerky style, or, I mean, my preference would be raw or home-cooked. A lot of times changing the style of food can correct this, right? Because it sounds like the body is making too much of the stomach bile, and then obviously it's, you know, coming back up. So yeah. Jeanette said, so why are you a canine nutritionist and not my veterinarian? Yeah, well, it's because I started my my canine nutritional journey well after I graduated from college. So I already had my degree, and then, right, then the economy, the bottom fell out, and we were all, you know, in a tizzy for quite some time. So, but yeah, I definitely wish that I had gone to school to be a veterinarian. However, I didn't start working for dog food companies until I got out of college, right? A little bit while I was working in college, but then I got out of college, the bottom fell out on the economy, and that's how I ended up working for dog food companies. That's how I started out. So if that had never happened, then I wouldn't be where I am today, right? I might be one of those brainwashed vets, probably not, because that's not my personality type. I'm a go against the grain type, but I should have been a vet. My dad still tries to convince me that I should go and be a vet. Hi, Allie. This is from Ashley. I have a new Pommy. Yay! He is on science diet. No! I have been following you. Yay! I am at my parents' house, then traveling to mine. Should I change his diet since traveling soon? No. Ashley, this is a great question. So, whenever you first get your puppy, or if you are in a situation like you've described where you're going to be traveling soon, your puppy is already going through enough stress. Even though they seem like they're fine, right? They're happy, they're playing, they're eating, they're drinking, all of those good things that puppies do, you want to keep it that way. So the last thing you want to do is try to change their diet now. Having said that, once you've been home for maybe a week or two, your puppy is settled, you've gotten into a routine, right? Then you can start looking at, okay, what would be an appropriate option to transition my puppy to a new food. But while you're traveling or when you first get your puppy, definitely do not change the food. But that was a great question. I would get through being at parents' house, traveling, get home, get settled, then you can look at transitioning to something else. Jessica said, my aunt's overweight diabetic dog was on vet food and his sugar was always off. Gave her some recommendations from group list and he is doing much better and losing weight with only 2 months. Within only 2 months, that's great. Excuse me. Jessica, I was so excited reading that I got choked up. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Please tell your aunt that they are doing a wonderful job and to keep it up. That's good, because the more weight that you can get off and get that dog to their ideal weight, the easier it's going to be to keep their blood sugar where it should be. That's fantastic. I love that. Hey, Brandy said, we have a country vet and he pushes a raw diet. Well, listen here, Brandy. You tell your vet that he needs to come around, tell these other vets what's up. Because these other vets are getting crazy. Hey, Kathy just joined us. Hi, Kathy. And Kimberly. Hello, Kimberly. Ooh, Kimberly said, one of my rescues has an ovary-sparing spay. That's impressive. Did you do that on your own, or did the rescue do it? Because that is phenomenal. If it was the rescue, let me tell you, rescues are some of the worst about pediatric spay and neuter. They are really bad about it because they don't trust people. So if your rescue did it, that is phenomenal. Okay. All right, Suze, what time is it? All the dogs are laying at my feet.
8:40.
Okay. All right, I'm going to have to jump off of here in a minute. Andrea said, how will my dog's blood work change when eating a raw diet? We have a physical next month. I want to be prepared for the comparison. So, it really depends on the dog. Sometimes you will find that their creatinine, levels will be higher. You'll find some dogs that, various levels will be not high, but at the higher end of normal, right? So on blood work, you'll have low, right down here. You'll have a normal range, right, which is those blocks in the middle, and then you'll have high up here. So you'll find that some of the readings will be up here towards in the normal range, but they'll be slightly higher in normal. Some vets get bent out of shape about that, and they'll ask you what you're feeding. That is normal. There's nothing wrong with that. If there was a reading that was like way out of the norm, like way high or way low, then you might want to look at it, but that may not necessarily be diet related. So yeah, but if you'd like to see some blood work, let me know, Andrea, and I can get you, I think I still have some copies of blood work that I can show you where the readings are a little bit high, but still within normal. Okay, good. Okay, Joy says, my boy is 4.5 years old. He has bradycardia and is on meds twice a day. Is there a special diet? The vet never mentioned anything about it. If he's not overweight, then, as long as you're feeding one of the foods from the recommended list, right? You want to be sure that you're not feeding anything that has potatoes or legumes. That goes for treats. Me personally, I would recommend either a home-cooked diet, right, from a complete and balanced recipe like the ones in the files, or a raw diet, but really that just depends on your dog and their sensitivity level, and if you want to go that route. But there isn't like a special cardiac diet, right? Usually, if there is a need for a special diet and the dog has a condition, it's usually in relation to weight, right? Like they're trying to trim them down. Okay, great. Sabrina said, what toothpaste are you using? Some people suggest Vet's Best, but I read really bad reviews. Just bought Verbac. We don't use toothpaste. We use raw meaty bones. So I can't help you there. But if you do if you use the search function in the group, right, the little magnifying glass in the right-hand corner, and you search toothpaste, if you scroll down to some of the older posts, we have some DIY doggy toothpaste recipes that you can make them yourself. And I have used those before and they've worked great. But as of right now, we don't use any doggy toothpaste because we don't brush teeth. We just use raw meaty bones. And there's a document in the files if you're looking for raw meaty bones that are appropriate for your size dog. So okay, Penny said change food numerous times all throughout the month, different times during the day. They eat kibble. Nature's logic now. Yeah. Honestly, if it was me, I would go with a home-cooked diet from one of the complete and balanced recipes from the files, preferably something that doesn't have a lot of different proteins in it, maybe 2 at the most. I would give that a try, and I would cook the meat to medium rare, right? Even chicken, I would just do medium rare. And if there were any vegetables, I would blend them until smooth to then mix in, right, with the food. And obviously if there are bones in the ingredients, you don't cook anything with bones, right? You give those raw. So that would be my recommendation to start. And then I would just take it from there and see how they do. It may take a week for their body to kind of reset. And during that time frame, I wouldn't use any outside treats, right? Bones, chews, nothing. It would just be the food. If you need to give them a treat, then it needs to be one of the elements of the food. For example, if the food calls for blueberries, then you could blend up some blueberries, put them in a silicone mold, freeze them, and you could give those as treats, right? So that way you're limiting your ingredients, because sometimes when you do a switch like this, and you're dealing with overactive bile production, it can be certain ingredients that are causing an inflammatory reaction. So it's just trial and error. But that's where I would start. Whitney said, finally caught alive. Yay! Okay, great. Hey, Jenny says, hi, Allie from Milwaukee. Hello. I have family in those parts. You're very welcome, Jessica. Okay, great. Okay, guys, we are going to have to wrap it up here. I can see that we've got a few more questions, so I'm just going to rapid fire real fast because I got to get these dogs to bed because they're all laying at my feet. So Jenny says, when do puppies stop needing a heating pad? So they can start to regulate their own temperature around the 3-week mark. It's really going to depend on what your breed is and how big they are. For example, when breeding toy breeds, it's very important that you leave the heating pad available to them because the puppies are very small, and if you have a runt, right, it can take them a little longer to kind of catch up, developmentally speaking, to the rest of the puppies. So you can always have it on and available, and if they want to wander off of it, they can, but they can always make their way back to it. So it doesn't hurt to have the heating pad available, you know, well into the 4-week mark. It really just depends on your breed and your puppies and how quickly they're progressing. But yeah, if you look at my breeding related videos, the whelping kit videos, I talk about the heating pad that I use where you can set the temperature. That's a really nice feature because you can set the temperature a little bit lower when they're older, and that way if they get a little bit cool, they can go get on the heating pad and it's not quite so hot, right? Because a lot of them, it's just, you know, low, medium, high. There's no temperature gauge. So I highly recommend the one with the temperature gauge. Okay. Uh-oh, Whitney. Henry snatched a crystal chick earlier this evening. Should I expect diarrhea all night long? I would go ahead and preemptively give Henry pumpkin. If you have it, just like, I would say 4 or 5 scoops, just to try to help, you know, that fiber kind of get with everything. It may be too late, and it may be, you may be in for trouble. But if you have pumpkin puree, I would just try to get him to eat a couple of scoops of it. And whatever time you normally wake up, I would get up at least an hour to an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours earlier than that, to then let him potty. Especially if he stays in a crate, right? If he's not sleeping with you or in an area where you could hear him get up, I would definitely plan on getting up, and letting him go potty. Oh no, I'm turning into a pumpkin myself. Okay. Is it possible for a dog to outgrow allergies? Yes, it is. My dog had an allergy test at 1 year old and was allergic to chicken and beef, but when I feed him fresh or raw chicken and beef, he seems to do fine. He's now 2 years old. Yes. So 2 factors here. 1, he may have grown out of it. 2, whenever you're feeding a fresh food, right? So in this instance, raw chicken or raw beef, the body, in most cases, is able to recognize it as actual food, right? So you're not just feeding them a processed pile of powder, which is what chicken meal or beef meal would be. And I talk more about this in the video that I actually just made and put out about why I don't recommend kibble that has, you know, a lot of proteins in it. So yeah, so it could be the fresh feeding. It could be that he grew out of it. But either way, it sounds like you're doing great. Okay, guys. All right. Thank you so much for joining the live session. Thank you so much for hanging in there through my rant. I feel better now that I got that off my chest. I was reading Jessica's post and I was like, what? You gotta be kidding me. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll catch you in the next live video. I hope you guys have a great night. And as always, be kind, rewind.